Hey guys, what's up? Danny here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys uh, some information. Basically, are peace talks possible? Professor Gilbert Ackar on whether Russia and Ukraine can negotiate end to war. So, basically, guys, I'm going to be reading this article to you, just basically explaining how, you know, how and when is the Ukraine and Russia war going to end, because this is very freaking important, right? Right now, the U.S. has sent the most aid out of any country to Ukraine, right? And a lot of military weapons and everything like that, right? Putin, right? He's mad right now, and I feel like the only way that it could potentially end if there's a U.S. president that's if there is a U.S. president that Putin respects, and the U.S. president that respects Putin, then I think that's how the Ukraine and Russia war would end. Now, that is mainly because Putin is currently attacking Ukraine as an attack for the West, right? So basically, Ukraine wants to be a part of NATO within the next 5 years or something, right? And Putin wants to attack Ukraine to make sure that it stays a less powerful country, right? So he's basically taking that power away from the United States to put it into NATO because he feels like he's getting disrespected by people, right? I feel like, in my opinion, that's what's going on right now. So the war in Ukraine is now in its 11th month, and Russia unleashed a new bombardment this week of cities across the country, including the capital Kiev. This comes as both Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin have expressed a willingness to negotiate an end to the war, but their positions remain so far apart that there are no real hopes of peace talks, says longtime anti-war activist, author, and international relations scholar Gilbert Ackar. For now, both sides are just probably betting on being able to achieve more on the ground and not really serious about a ceasefire and negotiations under the present conditions, he says. So I do feel like, high key, like if the U.S. if they make a deal with Putin to get out of Ukraine, and like they give him something in return, because I know the U.S. has a shit ton of money, right? And I feel like they could give something to Putin in return. It's like, hey, look, I know you're attacking this land because it's very valuable land. Ukrainian land is very fertile land, right? It's where you could plant a bunch of crops, and it's the climate is great in southern Ukraine, where I'm from too, where it's like literally in the summer it's freaking perfect. The water temperature goes up to 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea coast and stuff. It's very, very warm water there. And then there's freaking peach trees, apple trees, potatoes. It's a great growing environment, right? In the Northeast here, the reason why there's not as many vegetables is because of the acid rain. So that's just kind of why Putin wants the land. That's kind of why Putin wants, southern Ukraine and stuff, right? That's why he's invading it in the first place. Why isn't he invading the north? Because the south is the one with the most precious things. And, even southern Crimea, there's freaking palm trees and stuff. You know why? Because, that's just that, because Ukraine is way down south, and Russia is like freaking extremely cold. It's all the way really cold up there in Moscow. So basically, if the U.S. respected Russia and its power, this would have never happened, in my opinion. Again, it's all Biden's fault. He showed military weakness, and that's it. So yeah, Russia launched a series of attacks on Ukraine. Uh, So Zelensky has been pushing a 10-point peace plan, while Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's prepared to end the war in Ukraine, saying he'll negotiate with everyone involved in this process about acceptable solutions. Are negotiations likely? So what's happening in Ukraine, the systematic destruction of civilian infrastructure by the Russian side, is a war crime. I mean, human rights organizations have clearly stated that from the beginning. It started 2 months ago. It's been already 2 months of systemic destruction, systemic bombing of the civilian infrastructure. So this is horrifying, of course, and it must be very, very strongly condemned. No less than the condemnation of the U.S. destruction of Iraq's infrastructure, its civilian infrastructure in 1991. I mean, we have to be consistent. If we have denounced and condemned what happened in Iraq, we have to denounce and condemn what is happening today in Ukraine. Now, about the statements about negotiations are, I think, today more propaganda devices than real. I mean, that's because if you see what conditions they're associated with, I mean, they sound like more ultimatums than real willingness to negotiate. On the Russian side, I mean, it's been a while now since September that Vladimir Putin is making statements calling for ceasefire and calling the Ukrainians to return to the negotiating table. That's his own words. But if you read clearly that he's saying at the same time that there's no way that there could be any discussion about the four Ukrainian provinces that he annexed to Russia very officially. So if this is included from any possible negotiation, how possibly could that negotiation or even the ceasefire leading to it happen? On the Ukrainian side, they may be more flexible, but sometimes you have statements like a recent one by the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ukraine saying that the condition for negotiations would be that Vladimir Putin and other Russian leaders be deferred in front of their international tribunal. Of course, that's again putting the bar very high for any possible negotiation. Идёло видео. Подожди. So I think for now both sides are probably just betting on being able to achieve more on the ground and not really serious about a ceasefire and negotiations under the present conditions. So let me just read about this. Oh yeah, and I think one of the reasons he is very bothered by Ukraine is actually what happened with the election of Zelensky. Whether one may think of Zelensky, but the election and free elections of a maverick like Zelensky is something that is felt as a very bad example from someone like Vladimir Putin. Of course, Zelensky in his mind can only remind him of Navalny and his own opponent and what he, as we know, all that happened to Navalny. So I think there is this on the one hand the fear that you might have the development of some kind of democratic society and polity in Ukraine, which is unacceptable, going in the exactly opposite direction of the increasing authoritarian and autocratic transformation of the Russian side. I wouldn't hesitate even calling present-day Russia the regime as neo-fascist in the sense that it has a lot of the features of fascism without, this paramilitary kind of aspect, but on the background of imitating democracy. It's a fake democracy, of course. You have fake elections and imitation of democracy, but basically you have a very repressive and right-wing regime. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's kind of like just what they're talking about and stuff is that peace talks, they are, they're definitely possible and stuff, and I feel like, again, Putin just feels disrespected, and he's gonna fight for communism. He's gonna fight for this, right? We need a president that's fit to kind of clear all of this up, because I do want to go back to Ukraine in the future. Trust me, I really do, and I want to kind of like, just like, potentially even have a house there. So it's a really great, nice country and stuff. You know what I mean? So that's it. Let's see if we got any more Ukraine-Russia war news. Let's see if we have any news actually. And there's a article here about yeah, guys, give me 1 second, yo. Gotta wait for this stuff to load. Okay, yeah, now I can see the article. Okay, that wasn't even actually my email. That's so hilarious. That's a random person's email. I just used 111 as a manifestation power tool. So let's see. So, with upgraded weaponry on the way, Western resolve holding firm, and the Ukrainian army continuing to outmaneuver and outwit Russia's flailing military, Ukraine's promised year of victory is off to a good start. If 2023 continues as it began, there's a good chance Ukraine will be able to fulfill President Vladimir Zelensky's New Year's pledge to retake all of Ukraine by the end of the year, or at least enough territory to definitely end Russia's threat. But while Zelensky was rallying Ukrainians to expect victory this year, Russian President Vladimir Putin used his New Year's speeches to prepare Russians for a drawn-out fight. Russian troops are digging into fortified defensive positions reinforced by at least 100,000 new mobilized soldiers, and though it seems unlikely that Russia can seize more territory anytime soon, it will also be tougher for Ukraine to make advances in 2023 than it was last year, despite momentum from recent victories. If Kiev cannot achieve significant breakthroughs against this entrenched, growing Russian force, there is a risk that the war will become a protracted conflict favoring Putin, said Elizabeth Shackelford of the Chicago Council. A $45 billion aid package approved by the Congress will tide Ukraine over for the year, she said, but with U.S. presidential election 2024, the longer-term outlook is harder to predict. The former commander of U.S. Army said that he ticked off the advantages Ukraine will be able to exploit, from high morale among an army defending its homeland to superior leadership, cohesion, and seemingly unwavering Western support. The widespread rejection by the United States and Europe of Putin's call for a temporary ceasefire over the Orthodox Christmas holiday delivered a clear early reminder that Ukraine is not yet under pressure to enter into negotiations that Western officials say would probably be exploited by Moscow as an opportunity to rearm and regroup for further offensives while tightening its grip on occupied territories. A New Year's Day attack deep behind Russian lines on a makeshift Russian barracks in the occupied eastern Ukrainian city of Makiivka killed at least 89 Russian soldiers, according to Moscow. The strike demonstrated not only Ukraine's superior weaponry, intelligence, and surveillance capabilities, but Russia's persistent tactical missteps. Moscow blamed the attack on newly arrived recruits using cell phones, which gave away their location. U.S. officials, however, said that there's some evidence that Russia had stored ammunition in the barracks. Ukraine shot down all 45 of the Iranian-made drones. We have good record-breaking winter temperatures, good weather. French president backed Ukraine. So yeah, basically, guys, in my opinion, I feel like one of the main solutions that are most possibly going to happen to Ukraine, right? In my opinion, I think that Ukraine-Russia war map. Here, let me tell you guys. Let me tell y'all what the most likely outcome is. So right now, here we got a map. The Ukraine-Russia war. Yeah, that's about how it looks like right now. Yeah, so basically, obviously, Ukraine regained a good amount of territory. And, okay, yeah, here it is. This is all the territory Ukraine has regained. And then, yeah. So basically, if you just, like, to take a look at this image and stuff, you could definitely see that Russia, they are probably going to try to keep all of Crimea and the southern part of Ukraine here, mainly because they want to claim it as their own and stuff, right? I don't think they're going to push further, but I think that Russia is going to try their best to make sure that part of Ukraine is theirs, and I feel like Russia would be okay with that part of Ukraine being theirs and the rest of Ukraine being alone. So I think that the main negotiation deal right now that's going to go on is that the eastern part of Ukraine is gonna go to Russia, and then Ukraine is just gonna stay a country as its own, because, like Putin said, it's very, very strict about he's very, very strict about the current territories that are already occupied. and he's really trying. He's already, making sure people change their license plates for their cars in all these territories and stuff, right? It's a very authoritarian regime and stuff. So, I do think that, there's going to be like a continuation of, I don't think that Russia is going to gain more territory because Ukraine has already been supplied with so many weapons from the United States that it's freaking crazy. But Putin has done his mark, and in my opinion, at the end of all of this, I do think that this part of Ukraine is going to go to Putin, but with a new president coming in, right? Which the new president could be Ron DeSantis, right? He's a Republican president, and let's actually take a look at his relationship with Putin. DeSantis relationship with Putin. So let's just kind of see what he's talking about Putin and stuff, right? Because Putin, you can see him, he's a pretty evil man and stuff, right? You have to respect that about him. Let me see, I'm just trying to find an article that accurately talks about. He's very quiet on Russia. It's back in 2022. Yeah, so the 2024 Republicans eager to be seen as tough on Russia, right? So it looks like, I mean, Putin's obviously, he's not going to start a war and stuff, but, if there's definitely more military toughness, right, that's probably, something that we need and stuff, right? But, again, military toughness and stuff, I think that, Republicans are usually tougher with the military than Democrats, right? You see that as a perfect example of Obama and Joe Biden, right? Ukraine was invaded when Obama was president, when Joe Biden was president, and now that we have a Republican, again, we take a look at what Trump did and stuff, and this guy is a young Republican. So, what this could really do is that, this could, maybe DeSantis could really make sure that, Putin doesn't like touch Ukraine and stuff. But with the amount of funding and stuff, I think that Putin is scared to continue invading Ukraine because the rest of the areas that are left in Ukraine to be invaded are mainly they're mainly Ukrainian regions, right? Because there's some Russians that are already living in the areas that Putin has invaded now. But all of the other areas, those are mainly Ukrainian. People mainly speak Ukrainian, except like Odessa or something. I think that's like part Russian, but still, like that's still pretty far west, which means that it's right next to NATO. Like that part of Ukraine's right next to Romania. So you get attacking like next to the Romanian border and shit. You see Russian troops there, and I think that the West would really, really, really get extremely angry at that point. So I don't think that that Putin would attack that area, but I do think that this is how it's gonna like go down and stuff. That part is gonna be given to Russia, and then yeah, depends on the toughness and stuff. We'll see what happens at the end of the day. But I know that Putin isn't afraid to start a nuclear war. So I think that whatever areas he already has now, it might be set in stone. That's in my opinion, right? That's in my opinion, being fair, non-biased from both countries. That's it. That's honestly what I think is gonna happen. So, I would love Ukraine to regain that territory that they lost because I'm never gonna be able to go to the freaking sea anymore, like that Sea of Azov and shit. I'm never gonna be able to go there to just like freaking chill and shit. Like nah, I'm not gonna be able to do that shit anymore. Yeah, so it's gonna be a tough one, but I don't think Ukraine's gonna reclaim that territory again. It's still a big country all in all, but if somebody can find a way to kill Putin or to affect Russia in a negative way, it's more than just sanctions, then that would lead to Russia going down as a country as a whole, right? So I think anything is possible at this point, right? That would lead to Russia going down as a country as a whole. That's it. Okay, yo, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's my take on all of this. Have a great day and peace out.